old you, and starting over be 5 times.
Yeah.
So you're gonna start over with the same thing and say, you know what, I'm gonna work out. Go work out, be sore for 2 weeks, stop.
Yep.
Then you're like, you know what, I got away from working out. You know what, I'm gonna get back on it. When you gonna get back on it? Well, I'm gonna start Monday. I'm gonna start my week fresh.
Yep.
That shit is draining.
You start and then you do the same thing all over again. So it's like you got a purpose, but then you're not really serious about your purpose because you ain't serious about yourself.
Well, I'm going to tell you this, Frank. When there is no purpose, there's no real reasoning for continuing these behaviors. After you get used to something, after you become comfortable, the value of that thing goes down, right? And this is I'm speaking on a psychological level, a surface of just thinking about it, right? As I do something more and more and more, and it becomes something that, oh, this is just something I do, right? If you don't have it tied to a bigger purpose, eventually you will be less motivated, or you'll do it on autopilot, or you'll get to a point where it's like, it doesn't matter if I miss today or if I don't do it for like a week. And this is why a lot of people get into a good habit at first and then they lose it. And so what we're talking about right now is self-care habits. So we're talking about staying on top of your diet, staying on top of exercise. Also, I didn't hear anybody mention, or maybe you did and I missed it, stress management. Staying on top of having tools, routines, things that have to do with, I do this to manage my stress. And then there is also having a purpose. Because you can't say I'm caring for self if you don't have reasons why it's important to care for myself. We see it every day in children. If you're raising children, you see often where you tell them to do something that is self-care and they're annoyed with doing it because they don't understand the purpose of doing it. Do y'all understand what I'm saying?
Yep, that's facts, Dorsey. My kids was like, they were younger when I was teaching them the habits, but now they're older and I don't have to tell them, especially my 15-year-old, he has a purpose on why he want to keep his hair done, why he goes to the gym, why he wants to do certain things.
Yep.
And if you ask him, he can run it down to you because his purpose is bigger than just him waking up every morning being 15 years old.
But when
so I see it in my child.
When you, and I love that you said that, because when you don't give them reasons, they will tell you, like, I don't know why I got to do that. And it ain't even from a disrespectful space. It's just them not understanding. And so it holds no real value. Do y'all understand what I'm explaining? Because it's important. And when we talk about taking care of yourself, it's a lot of y'all, you can say, I take care of myself, but you're doing the surface level things that allow you to exist in survival. And then anything past that that gets deeper, really caring for your psyche or your mental health, really looking at changing my diet or exercise, and changing enough to where it becomes a new habitual behavior to do right by my body, right? Creating moments where I meditate or do yoga or disengage or disconnect from the internet, from other people, from family, so that I can really sort and figure myself out, right? You don't have reasons for doing this. You won't keep up with this shit. You will not keep up with this. Who can relate to what I'm explaining? Because it's important that you genuinely understand it for what it is.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, I used an example on the book club before, but it's like when you start a job and they don't really train you on everything, and so you go through the job like making mistakes, and it's not until you fuck up that you realize like the purpose of why you gotta cross your I's and dot your T's, and so you start to do it as you go along.
Yep.
It's like the same thing in life. If you keep missing your workouts, you're gonna be fat or you're gonna be out of shape. If you keep not doing your self-care, you're gonna be stressed.
Yep.
So just keeping those small things intact for the bigger picture.
Yep. And then somebody said environment, right? I want one of y'all to elaborate. When we talk about environment playing a role in you being able to take care of yourself, what do you understand about that? Because I know a lot about that. I know a lot in regards to family and outside influences and the people that you talk to and text the most, even the people you follow on social media, the stuff you watch on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. All of these things play a role in how you care for yourself. What do y'all understand about that?
It takes up a lot of time.
Like, but outside of Frank, outside of the time it takes up, tell me, because you're raising a son, what would you tell him if he was to say, well, what is what I watch on Instagram or Facebook, Daddy, or YouTube or TikTok? What that got to do with me taking care of myself?
It's mental.
It shifts your mind. It definitely takes you away from just reality. It builds you on the inside, and you're gonna sit on the outside, and you won't even think that you're doing that.
Right.
Like, it tells you how you want to be treated. Like, if you focus on basketball and football and all that stuff right there, you look that up on YouTube, you'll be more interested in that when you're going to school. But if you're looking up stupid stuff like watching people play video games, you really don't give a fuck about school.
Yep.
And it's just gonna show at school. And you don't know you're doing that, but you're gonna know that you don't care.
Right.
Because like whatever the teacher's saying, you ain't gonna pay attention to that. But
Right.
soon your friend tap you on your shoulder and talk about this game that they played. Oh yeah, you're gonna be all because you got a lot of information on this particular game, because that's the next best thing in your life.
Yep.
So what I do with Kobe is I make sure he spend at least 15 to 20 minutes so he won't be overly consumed by the things I'm telling him to do, but I'm giving him in repetition for throughout the day, even when he get out of school, to spend time with himself. I said, did nobody tell me to do none of this right here? I have to learn this as an adult.
Right.
So I'm trying to learn it, but I'm giving it to you in a different area. So once his emotions and everything like that, I don't feel like doing it, it gives us something to talk about. And now he can learn better, because now he's going to be able to receive what I'm giving him.
So now let me ask you this, and this is a question to Frank, but to everybody. Do you practice what you preach? As we tell these children, don't watch this, don't engage with this. If you spend too much time looking at this, it will affect how you view yourself, how you go about life, how you care for yourself. Are y'all practicing what you preach? Are you mindful of what you watch, what you get involved in, how much you spend in regards to your time looking at certain shit? And it's really a question to make you pause and think, what measures are you taking to really hold yourself accountable to this? Because it's easy to chastise a child or to parent from a space of, hey, just like Frank said, here's why you don't need to be doing this. I don't want you to be a follower. Here's what you got to look at. Are you doing this for yourself as an adult? Or are you sitting up watching the bullshit that goes on online and caring more about that than the real shit?
I explain to Cole on the things that I'm telling him to do, but I also talk about myself. I don't leave myself out, and I tell him Daddy got to do a better job too, because the same thing you doing, Dad is also doing it.
Yep.
Even just being dad. Like, so I know that it's hard for me being that I'm on the road and I'm away. I know it's messing up both of us because we want to be around each other. But we're gonna have to operate on the phone a little bit more. Once you get out, I'm gonna help you with your homework a little bit more. I'm gonna help you read a little bit more. But for me, just like you learning new things, Dad is learning new things too. That's why I'm a part of this book club, because I'm introducing myself to new things. I said you can do the same thing too, but you don't need your friends with you. But you have to learn something to understand that you have to value yourself and not value your friends. And I see why you do that.
Yeah. And I'm gonna tell you, Frank,
So
as parents, we gotta own it. Like, we really got, and when I'm saying own it, you really gotta own it. Like, you really gotta let your children know, here are areas that I'm improving upon or stuff that I'm working on, because a lot of us, and a lot of y'all gonna relate when I make this statement, a lot of us got older, and in certain areas, we don't respect our parents. I'm gonna say it again. A lot of us got older, and because they were not accountable with a lot of this shit, we lost respect for them. Some of them don't know it because we weren't raised up to show disrespect or be disrespectful or to speak our mind even in a respectful way to elders. But there's a lot of y'all in a room where your mama or your daddy wasn't gonna know, your grandma wasn't gonna know. You don't respect a lot of shit about them. They don't know this. And we need to talk about this more because it's real. So when you sit up and you raising children and you're not honest, and they can see that you're not, but you think because ain't nobody saying nothing, this is what's going on with most people. Because the child can't speak up and point it out, because the younger family member or the young people in your family or around you don't have that freedom in your presence to talk about what they see is a lie or they see is flawed or fake that you doing, it leaves you to believe you mostly doing good in their eyes, but that's not true. Because a lot of y'all know as grown adults, if we start to talk about the elders that raised y'all, you end up in a space where you agree that, nah, I don't respect my auntie. I got an uncle on my daddy's side I don't respect. Hell, my daddy I may not respect in certain areas. My mama with certain things, I don't respect her in these areas. No, I don't care to go off, cuss her out, or even have a conversation about it because I know she's not going to be accountable, but I seen her lie. I seen him cheat. I seen her cheat. I seen them make up this. I seen her tell me things that weren't true while talking about other people saying stuff that wasn't true. I watched the hypocritical behavior. Who can relate?
Me. Yes, I do.
I hear a lot of y'all.
For sure.
This is Marilyn. I grew up in the 60s.
Go ahead, Miss Marilyn.
I grew up in the 60s, and I saw a lot, my parents and a lot of the other parents in the neighborhood, especially the women, put up with a lot of abuse. And they hang in there mostly because the women didn't have careers and couldn't afford to leave. My mom and dad were in that situation. We left my dad for a whole year, and we were hungry a lot, and we just lived in a rotten neighborhood. So they got back together to make it work for our benefit.
Right.
But it turned me off from wanting to be married, because if that means putting up with all that suffering and abuse, why am I going to stay in that mess? Matter of fact, I avoided having kids. It didn't make sense to me.
Well, and this is the realness, the stuff that, like, when you look back, I'm pretty sure from a space as a child, I don't respect my father for constantly putting his hands on my mother. But then there is a space of not respecting my mother and her decisions, because it like you said, it negatively affected how I viewed life. And then we still had times where we went through poverty. So it was like, you know what I mean? What the fuck? And I experienced this as a child, not because I deserved this, but this was y'all poor choices. And then when you get older, you realize, like, there was so much of what they did with parenting that involved them telling you what you needed to do with your life. But if we keeping it real, I don't have much respect for how y'all life looked in the way that y'all raised us. But you know, Miss Marilyn, if you say something like this, you bound to get your ass popped in the mouth or cussed out, or, you know, you in trouble for just saying what's real. I see, Gina, you put in the, I'm gonna let somebody else speak. I see, Gina, you put in the chat, I challenge y'all to unfollow 3 negative accounts on your social media today. I like that. Ranielle said we need to bring realness back. Sometimes you gotta feel shame and be wrong. I like that. I saw somebody else earlier. Chrissy said, I just said this, be mindful who you follow online. Ranielle said it's like the environment is your guide and your support, and it will affect how you see things and what you care about. Crystal, I see you said what you consume and the people you interact with can influence your mental state. 100%. Michelle said we mimic what we see or hear. Yes, and LaVon said negative distractions. It is very much negative distractions. But some of us have to realize the more I am not accountable in front of my children and my significant other, the more respect I lose from them. And you can say on a surface level you don't care or you don't give a fuck, but truth be told, who wants to spend a good part of their life raising children that grow up and look at them without any respect or don't respect them in a lot of key areas? Somebody else was gonna say something.
Gina that mentioned I'm following 3 people. I was going to initially touch on that. So lately I've been following like people who I consider friends or just people who I had on social media for a long time, just based on the fact that I'm in a faithful relationship. And a lot of people will post like that shit, if I'm being clear, or just like things where they just out and about, just doing them, not really caring for a relationship. And it's like, I don't need to see this in the space where I am in my life. So things like that is like you can guide your environment to make it supportive to what you want.
Yep.
I just want to piggyback off of that, because I was going to say about environment, it's really important to create a space where you can keep the things that you want to do for you. For example, I have like the way my room is set up, it's not set up in a place in a way where I can sit down and like, let's say, you know, journal, or let's say go through my calendar.
Right.
And the places that I do have it, it's very noisy. So if you don't create that environment, that space, give that the things that you want to do, the space in your life to actually be and allow itself to be, then sometimes it will also affect your mental health and like just not having that space, period. It's almost like the book club where we have this space where we can say certain things or be certain places. If you don't have a space in your actual environment, your room, your car, your wherever it is.
So sometimes it's sometimes because like Omo, I love what you're saying. Sometimes it's you sitting down and rearranging your personal space. Sometimes it's you rearranging your life in regards to the people you interact with. Sometimes for a lot of people, you have to be honest with yourself that the city or town I grew up in is toxic, it's negative, it's not good for the growth of me and my children. Some of y'all got family that it's a bunch of drama, it's negativity, it's all kind of things that are not reflective of the lifestyle that you want for you and your children. So you need to build different resources, get up and move away from there. Some of y'all, it may be that I don't got to move away. I need to stand firm on my boundaries.
I've been recently doing that, staying firm on my boundaries and noticing that a lot of people that aren't on my caliber are starting to like distance themselves and, like you said, start putting on that black dress and let it be known.
Yeah, I'm gonna start mourning you. I'm gonna start mourning you. But you got to be mindful of. Let me say it like this. Same thing I said about our children, right? You can raise children and you can chastise them and get on them and make rules for them and then discipline them or have them face consequences when they don't follow those rules. But then you struggle as an adult in those same children's presence to follow rules and make rules and create standards for yourself. They see that. And so by the time they get older or become your age, they don't respect you in a lot of ways. And then it's the same for family members and friends and people that you cut off. Some of y'all cut people off for certain stuff, and then you didn't stick to the changes that you said you were going to make, and you look like a damn fool, right? Because the same stuff you told them was the reason you stopped fucking with them for, you back into that same shit. And this is where you really have to hold yourself accountable.
And like you said, I did also, when getting rid of those people, put in new habits or better habits so that we won't reel back into that old habit and going back to the old people and that negative stuff again.
Yes. Yeah. It has to be out with the old, in with the new.
That's what happened with me and my kids. You know, alcohol is a contributing factor to every death in my family thus far, you know, due to alcoholism. So I'm telling my kids not to drink, but here I am drinking. So when I stop drinking, now my kids don't have an alcohol problem.
Yeah.
You know, they go.
Yeah.
Because they stop.
Yeah.
You know?
100%. You gotta, it's that whole old school saying you gotta practice what you preach. And the idea is be the example. But be the example to yourself first. Meaning I have to make sure I'm positive and happy in a good mental space for myself first. And then I'm able to raise my children to be that to themselves, because that's when you're really rearing a good product. Most of us, like, we were raised and we started out raising our children from a space of, I'm going to teach this little person how to tolerate or how to mold themselves to coexist with me. And so I can tolerate them. I can accept them. I can raise them. But as they go out into the world, it's hard for other people to interact and deal with them. This is when y'all have heard me on lives talk about people that have bad kids. Everybody from a positive space want to say, you know, kids ain't bad. Some of them just got something. No, some of y'all children are fucking bad. And when I'm saying bad, what I mean is it's on you. It's not on the child. So the child is innocent in this. You have raised them to where you're able to put up with them. You're able to tolerate them. You're able to accept them. They have a skill at knowing how to maneuver with you. But if you try to get somebody to watch them, when you leave them at school, when they have to interact with others, when it's time for them to go out into the world, they are fucking menace. By the age of 5, when you're raising children, they're supposed to be socially acceptable to the extent of being able to interact with other little humans their age and in their peer category, and then also follow rules. And the reason why this is important is because as you go through life, even when you're 60-something years old, there are laws, rules, statutes, regulations in place that you have to follow. So starting from a baby age, you need to understand the concept of there are boundaries here, there's no's here, there's stuff you can't do, there are things you got to understand, there's stuff that's not going to be fair. Do y'all understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Lord.
As children get older, as they get in the teenage age and their brain starts to develop in all areas and they get to a point where they start thinking for themselves, a lot of parents end up in a space where the kids don't respect them.
And that's where that power struggle come in there when they're teenagers.
Yep.
That's where I'm at now, love, with my oldest son. Christy just had a Zoom for us last night that I found really helpful. And I was telling them about this. Like, my older son, I feel like, well, for me as a parent, like, I had my kids at a very young age. I was 14 years old when I got pregnant with my oldest son. So I was like a kid having a kid, right? And then when my mom raised me, I was just looking at, okay, I know the stuff that she should have done better with me, so I'm going to change that. But I feel like I took it to the extreme. And now I have that struggle with him. And now that he's about to be 17 years old, it's like, we had a real conversation where he told me, like, I could tell you and Dad, like, y'all didn't plan for this. This just happened. Y'all really didn't know what y'all was doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, having to deal with that.
Yes. But you have to be, this is my thing. You have to be comfortable admitting that. Insight 24 says no good habit will stick if you're not taking care of yourself. Part of taking care of yourself is being honest. This is a part of mental health, right? There is that emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical part of taking care of yourself. A mental part is honesty with self. Remember, I be saying the biggest lies is the ones you tell your fucking self. Fuck what somebody else lying to you about. So when you wake up and you start out with a lie to yourself. For example, I know what I'm doing. I'm doing a good job. I got this figured out. These kids better listen to me. I know what's best for them. You know, it's about what I think, what I want. I'm going to get us there, right? And this is not true based on the information that you hold, the traumas that you haven't seen about. That you start out, you wake up with this lie to yourself, right? Then you have to keep up a certain attitude to front this lie to the children. And then they have to carry this to a certain extent, right? Out into their community and their school and act like y'all got more going on than what y'all do, or your mama is doing better than what she really is in order to fit in. And, you know, this is when you see kids fighting and defending their mama, when people saying certain things about y'all lifestyle and stuff that's going on. You turn them into little liars. And then eventually it gets to the point where they realize, like, there are things in life that I want as a young adult, stuff about my mind, my thinking, my brain's developing, and my mom doesn't know how to validate that. She doesn't know how to have conversations with me without getting triggered or feeling some type of way. This is when the respect starts to be lost. At first, I was upholding this little code we got as a family or a tribe. But then as a teenager, when I realized, like, wait a minute, she don't exactly know what she's doing, because now I got needs and wants and things about myself. I'm trying to understand my hormones, my own mindset, my own perspective on stuff, and she can't take it. He can't take it. My parents can't take me developing in their presence and not agreeing or thinking the exact way that they do. Then they start to see your lack of emotional management. Kids see all of this. Just a lot of times we're not a safe space for them to speak up about what they see.
Yeah. And I learned that because sometimes my mom wasn't that safe space for me to talk to her about those type of things either.
Yep. That's why I said a lot of us can relate to the statement when I said you get older and you realize I don't respect my parents in a lot of areas. Overall, yes, I love you. I respect you for bringing me in this world. But then when we start talking about financial literacy, we start talking about mental health and how to take care of yourself, we start talking about things other than what you taught me about working a job and paying bills, it ain't nothing you gave me to respect. And when I look at your life, you didn't respect yourself enough in these areas to go educate, get information, tell yourself the truth when you wake up that you don't know what you're doing with money, that you don't have it figured out, that you fucked and was not disciplined with your sex, right? Where you had more of us than what you could actually take care of. These are things that, like, it is difficult for our parents to just admit. And some of us, that shit carried over to us to where we walk around with lies. I see so many of us as young men and women, we pretend as though it was not a poor choice to have a child or be fucking unprotected in our teens and have a kid. We pretend like it is not ignorant, right? To sit up and keep having more babies than what you can afford. When somebody go to talking like this, we start acting like they judging us or they doing something to us. Or they saying something that's so bad to where we can't even be grown to the next generation. Even with a lot of men, you see it where you got some men, they're willing to say, you know what? I was out there thugging, drugging, fucking, throwing rocks at the chain gang, worrying about hoes and big booties and pretty women and spending money in the clubs. I was dumb for that. And then you got some men, they ain't willing to say that was some ignorant ass shit, or that was some stupid shit I did, or that was not smart. I was dumb for that. There are a lot of us that we had babies outside of wedlock, getting no help, and we're single mothering, and we don't want to admit to the younger generation or even to ourselves, because remember, you got to tell yourself the fucking truth. That girl, this wasn't smart. Give a fuck how embarrassed you feel about it or how much you feel like a motherfucker judging you. It was not smart. And you a fool to yourself first by walking around trying to pretend like it was actually smart or that it was not a terrible decision. It was a terrible decision. Terrible. Having babies from men that you don't know. And when I say no, I mean spiritually, mentally, and emotionally aligned. Goals set up. You watch to see his behavior align with wanting to be in a monogamous relationship and be a family man, not getting the commitment before allowing him to have sex with you raw. Terrible decision. Terrible decision.
Yeah, because most of us grew up off.
Somebody said most of us grew up off what?
Most of us grew up off of feelings.
Right.
That's
Come
why
on.
that's why all our life was built up off of.
Yep.
That's how we learn how to date. That's how we learn how to pick the perfect job because we felt comfortable.
Yep.
It ain't a hard job. It don't look complicated. Oh man, it's easy. So if you can convince somebody else, they gonna come right over.
Yeah.
Like it's something that you got to go through a process. Ain't nobody signing up for that shit.
Yep.
Like had I known all that stuff, my son wouldn't even be here.
Yep.
My son wouldn't be here. But
That's the truth. But Frank, that's the truth that okay, when we try to dress it up, we make it seem like, I'm grateful. Like we know you love your child, right? We know that you love your kids and you are, moving forward from it. But you have to be willing to look at the choices you made and be honest. Like Frank said, that if I could go back and if I could take what I know now and go back, I wouldn't even do this to a child. I wouldn't. Not saying that I wouldn't have kids, but the manner in which I brought them in this world, the person in which I procreated with, the situations in which the stuff I had going on based on my choices, I would never. I would have fucking never.
I'm going.
You got it. You got it.
Thank you, Frank. The reason why I'm going to speak on that is because, I actually say that shit all the time, love. I tell myself that shit all the time. And I tell my mama, when I came to you and asked you to put me on birth control, that was my way of reaching out. You telling me as a freshman in college, don't have sex.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying?
Makes no sense.
You fucking at my age, so why?
Yep. But that's Renee. I love that you brought it up. That's a perfect example of what I was saying about we end up in a space where certain areas we don't respect our parents. Tell me what sense does it make to tell a young girl going to college don't have sex? That's your advice. That's your parenting. Don't have sex. Now, knowing scientifically, biologically, my species being a human, this is the age in which your body is at the peak of exploring and understanding and sexuality and all of these things, right? And your parenting plan was don't have sex. You got to be silly as hell to think that this makes sense.
She ain't gave no explanation or nothing. And I'm coming to you asking you, can you put me on birth control? Because I couldn't do it myself. Because, I graduated high school at 17. So I was 17, but I was in college.
Mm-hmm.
You still wasn't. You didn't. You were telling me no. You were my resource, but you told me no. I couldn't.
But it goes back to, and a lot of y'all know this, in our community, and I have a Zoom coming up on this, the relationship between mothers and daughters, especially in our community. But y'all know there's a lot of shame and you're made to feel guilty when you start to develop sexually. It's like a burden to the parent. And I know some of y'all can relate to this, male or female. You started to feel like a burden to your parent once you started to develop feelings and an understanding for sex and your sexuality. And so a lot of us snuck and did shit that we have no business doing at that age because you really didn't feel like it was a safe space to go talk to your parent, because when you bring up boys or sex or girls or whatever, they were so uncomfortable with that kind of talk. And you could tell, not because they said, oh, I'm uncomfortable with talking to you like about this. They were uncomfortable because you could tell they knew what was going on, but it was always a mad thing or you in trouble thing or sit your grown behind down, girl, or you running around being fast or what you doing out there with them, bring your ass in the house. It was a very rah, it bothered them.
Yeah, like my mama told me, like, when I first heard told her I had a crush, she was like, I don't want to hear about this. I don't want to talk to you about this. Like, what about the lady?
Right. And I'm sure a lot of y'all, when you think back as a grown woman, you look back and you like, the type of talk I want to have with my daughter or my children, I couldn't dare because I felt like I was a burden.
Mm-hmm.
This is where it goes back to having resources for your kids, because sometimes we might not be the safe space for our kids to be able to come and talk to us openly about things. I actually have two friends who have 16-year-old daughters, both in 11th grade, and they both think their daughters are virgins, and they're both not. So my god baby, I actually had her go to the health department herself to get on birth control, because you can do that under the age of 18. It's illegal to deny birth control, and you can't discuss it with the parent if it's sexually related. But even my 10-year-old daughter has recently told me, like, she'll talk openly to me. But she just recently told me, like, oh, well, Ma, I kind of don't want to tell you this because I think I might get in trouble. So she's even learning what she's telling me and her reactions, or the reactions I give her to the things that she tells me. And even with my friends' children who have confided in me, there's like a fine balance between, okay, at what point do I need to go and tell their mothers who are actually my friends, but it's going to break the trust and you're not going to be able to get the information.
So now let me say this, Sierra, because this is where we go wrong as parents, right? We go wrong because we don't realize as our kids shift in these stages of development, we must shift in how we parent. So now I want y'all to just think about this, right? Men and women, think about this. The way that we start out parenting our children, having to be the protector, the provider, the person that is rearing them from a space of you don't know what to do, so I have to guide you and show you, right? When they start developing into the middle school and, high school age where they are now developing their own mind to use, we're supposed to shift from what looks like the judge and the police officer over them that makes the rules and sets the consequences when they break the rules to somebody that now I'm helping you make your own rules, and we don't do that. We don't make that shift. And so what happens is now I'm a teenager. I'm 14, 15, up to 17, right? And I don't want to go tell the judge or the police, which is you, my mama or my daddy, right? You're that particular figure to me based on how you've been, my whole upbringing. I don't want to go tell the judge or the police officer the crime I committed. This is literally how it is. Nobody wants to walk up and say, okay, there's the officer that normally locks me up when I do stuff wrong, and then I have to go tell the officer I did something wrong. The concept is you don't tell the fucking, police or the judge that, yes, I'm guilty. You don't do that. And so if you don't take that shift along with your children, you will still be labeled by them mentally as the police officer or the judge. You the one going to arrest me, meaning reprimand me for breaking your rules. And then you the judge that's going to set the consequence or the sentence if I break your rules. I don't want to tell you shit. I don't want to tell you shit. When it comes down to being honest about stuff like sex or mistakes I made, if you shift realistically into a space where you are willing to say out loud, my child is now setting their own rules. And I know it sounds weird to y'all that was raised by black parents. Set their own rules. What the hell is she talking about? No. Your child, when they start to develop their own perception, their own perspective, their own mind, their own thoughts, you have to sit down with them and make them set their own standards for themselves. And then you shift into a authority figure that is just helping them be true to their own rules, their own, standards that they set for themselves, agreements they made with and for themselves. Do y'all understand what I'm saying?
Yes, and I think that's where a lot of respect get lost at, because like me transitioning into adulthood, like my late teens, early 20s, I would find myself asking a lot of times, like with me and my friends' parents, like, I know they done went through this thing, or like having credit, need to get an apartment, just different things that you realize throughout adulthood, like why they didn't prepare us.
Yep.
And I think that's where the respect was lost at, because I know for a fact you went through this phase. I know you was confused. I know you had to learn something. Why didn't you sit down and tell me, hey, look, it's gonna be like this you need to know, because you've been through it. And it's just like, I can't even look at you the same, because why didn't you prepare me? And it's because they couldn't accept where they went wrong and just say, like, hey, like you said, I fucked up, but this is where I fucked up at, and you could just avoid it by doing X, Y, Z. You know?
Right.
What age does it start where they can make their own decisions?
So obviously, some kids develop faster than others, but just to be clear, when you're watching your child grow, as they become more and more opinionated and you catch them doing things where it was like, Mom, well, I thought I should do that, or you'll see it. If you're a parent that's paying attention, you will see the shift from your babies asking you before they do anything to just trying to do shit themselves. And that's when you start. And for some kids, it starts as early as 8, 9, and 10, where they are deciding for themselves certain shit, down to like, well, I wanted to eat that, or Mom, I felt like I wanted to do this. This is when you start to shift your parenting style to where you help them make rules for themselves. And then when you're disciplining them, you're disciplining them because they broke rules that they agreed to follow. It's no longer just, I'm making the rules that even if you don't like them, I'm gonna still hold you accountable for following them. No, we taking a shift. Now, obviously, safety-wise, there will be certain things that as a child, no, you don't have a say in. But there needs to be certain things, if you're going to develop that relationship where you want your child to come to you and feel comfortable, there needs to be things where you sat down with them and you let them decide. You let them make the rules.
And you feel it too. My daughter, she 8. She's already like that. So if I try to decide for her, she will tell me, Mommy, I'm a big girl. I'm almost a preteen. And that starts I didn't even know she knew preteen started at 9 years.
Yep.
She was like, I'm almost a preteen, Mommy. I know what I'm doing. I know how to handle myself. I don't need you deciding everything for me.
Yes.
Like, all right.
And you need to give,
you
need to give her that. Even down to, some of y'all got the teens, or you remember when you were that age where, sex started to come up. Because the idea is you can tell your child whatever you want, right? Tell your kid whatever you want about sex, right? A good majority of their peers are out here discussing, looking at, being exposed to sex. So if you don't open the door for them to understand that this is a thing, it is a part of human behavior, it's going to go on around you, you will see it. Let's talk about what you want for yourself and what Mommy and Daddy want for you in regards to being responsible with this kind of stuff. Telling them what comes along with it, because a lot of us, we got told on the surface level, don't go out there and get pregnant. All right, your ass gonna catch something. And that's the most we got told. But there is so much more. Whatever age they're getting exposed. Whatever age they're getting exposed. Somebody put that in the chat. Yep. Whatever age they fucking getting exposed.
They get exposed. Yep.
It is very young.
It ain't I want y'all to really hear me. There is let me look in the textbook or Google what's the age to start talking. Whatever the fuck kind of environment you got those children in, whatever kind of environment you have those children in, determines when you're going to talk to them about that stuff. So some people's children aren't being exposed to that. Some of y'all kids, they done already seen ass, they done already seen sex, they done already seen porn. Maybe they have not done it themselves, but the type of house you run, right? How much you're on top of, what they're looking at, what they're not, whether there's older siblings, whether you drop them off at your sister's house with their cousins and them, they already know about it.
Yeah.
And so you can sit up and talk about, I'm going to wait till they're this age. You need to tell them kids nah, because they already seen it nah.
I love that I have an open space for my kids, love, because that was something because I couldn't do it with my mom. I made it a goal that I was going to do it with my kids. So, like, my daughter, she comes in and she talks to me about boys. And then my sons, they're open with talking to me about, like, you know, having crush and stuff at school. But, like, YouTube, it's another thing, too, because your kids will be on the kids' channel and there'll be stuff that they be talking about. Like, you really got to pay attention to what these people listen to.
Yes.
Because it exposed my son be asking questions. Like, he come in,
yes.
I had to explain to him how the hell I got pregnant from his daddy. Like, and he's only 8. Just because he watched something on YouTube.
But if you understand what I'm saying, you let him on YouTube. And so this is not some, oh, my son is asking about this. You let him on that app. Right? And so this is where accountability comes in, because I'm going to tell y'all something. Some of the stuff we do as adults is we sit back and we say, like, damn, why is he asking about that? A girl? These kids so grown nowadays. Your children are what you reared them to be, what environment you have them in, what you expose them to. Even for a lot of y'all, if you sit back and be honest, right? We have all these conversations about, for example, baby daddies and not want my baby daddy to bring my kids around a bunch of different women and things like that. But then if we're honest, be honest, right? Truth to yourself. How many different niggas your kids done seen, right? And I'm not saying that they seen them running in and out of your house, but them children know that you have been with a handful, if not more, of men trying to date or find somebody. So rather you think you exposed them to them or not, or you got your view, when you're not honest with yourself, you always sugarcoat your shit and make everybody else's shit be coated in salt. So it's easy to look at a baby daddy or a paternal grandmother and say, I'm just trying to see who y'all got around your kids. But then you be in situations with fucked up people around your kids. You're just not going to admit that to yourself or the kids. And then guess what? Just like a lot of us, when we grown now, a lot of y'all can articulate, my mama had me around some bullshit people. I might ain't get molested, I might ain't get beat, but I saw some bullshit. Like she had some bullshit going on. Go ahead.
I was being, back in the 60s, I was being looked at by grown men. Then I wasn't even 12 yet. I was developing I was developing breasts and everything. So my mother spoke to me about sex in a predator mindset. Why the things that I had to look out for. Yes. And I wasn't told, that we didn't talk about the good side of sex and getting birth control. I just watched kids around me, teenagers that were my age, that were getting pregnant by whomever. And that's what made me want to go and get birth control on my own. But I'm gonna tell you, I couldn't talk to my mother about
right. And see, I'm gonna tell you something, Ms. Marilyn. That whole I knew I couldn't talk to my mother about it. I'm gonna tell you what we do in our community. And Frank, I know you know what I'm saying, right? When you have girls or nieces, young females in your family, we spend a lot of time talking about how you dress, right? Girl, cover up, put on some clothes that's too tight, this too short. But grown men will tell you, I don't give a damn if you got on a sweatshirt and some sweatpants, a long dress, or a turtleneck. Men see sexuality through the clothes. So there is a certain responsibility behind how you dress. But if a nigga is in that space of trying to get a woman, Frank, you know damn well me putting on a turtleneck and a long dress is not finna stop a man from lusting if I'm developed, if I got hips, ass, breasts. So some of y'all got daughters, nieces, you got young women in your family that, like Miss Marilyn said, they developing hips, breasts, all this stuff. And instead of having a conversation with them, you steady trying to dress them down. But that ain't stopping no nigga from wanting no ass.
Yep.
No, Dorsey,
you sexy in a car with some limo tint. They can't see you. Damn, she's sexy.
Right.
You can't see it. I just know it.
My sister had the birth faster than me, and I was the oldest. Nobody looked at me, but all the men that were predators in the family, they looked at her because she had boobs and butt. I was the oldest though, but they always looked at her because of her body.
Go ahead, Keisha. You were gonna say something. Gina, I'm gonna let you go after Keisha. I saw Keisha try to speak up.
Okay, it's a couple of things. The first one I would come back to is with me raising my daughter in the house with my husband, which is her father, and because I didn't grow up with my daddy, so the perspectives are different. Sitting back and letting him lead certain things is kind of, it's not so much it is kind of like a disconnect a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah, of course.
Yeah, I feel like, because I feel like me speaking up, like having that conversation with her about boys and this, that, and the third, where he just gun her, we ain't talking about niggas, it ain't nothing to talk about. And I feel like when you shut it down, it leaves the door open.
Yes.
For things that
And Keisha, thank you. Let me say one, thank you for bringing that up, because a lot of us as women are not honest and accountable that when you grow up without a father, I don't know how to have certain conversations, or you even think they're inappropriate. Now, I'm going to say this because me and Frank have talked about stuff like this, right? When you're in a relationship with a man and you have children, like daughters or, young women in the household, right? And this is your partner, a adult, mature man that understands the responsibility behind being in a household with women and making sure that they feel safe, he is not going to have a problem having these conversations with you, with these young women, about how to be safe, about what to understand abuse is, about what to understand when somebody is touching you or looking at you or entertaining you in the wrong way as an older adult, or even just a family member that may be your same age. Now, a lot of us have to be accountable that when you didn't grow up with your dad, you don't know how to initiate these conversations with your boyfriend or your baby daddy or your husband in regards to speaking to the children about this. So like Keisha said, you kind of just don't have the conversation. Go ahead, Keisha, finish the second part of your thought.
Okay, yeah, so sometimes it's a conflict because I just feel like, especially with her just entering high school, it's something that we have to talk about.
Yes.
Again, the exposure of her having older cousins and being around her friends who, she's not only child, but she has friends that have, of course, older siblings and stuff like that. So I'm not oblivious to what's going on. So I do try to initiate the conversations and have those, so I do call them safe circles, But I also did create a pact with her cousins, which are like my nieces, that I know my daughter's not gonna feel comfortable with talking to me about everything. Even though I have the door open because that's just a natural instinct. Who wants to talk to their mama about everything right now, right? So she do have numbers and people that a trusted circle of people that that she feels comfortable to go have conversations with if and when that time arises.
Right. You absolutely have to have those conversations, because what kind of mother are you to not prepare your child for the stuff that goes on in this world? You just gonna pretend like it don't? You're gonna pretend like high school girls and high school age boys, even middle school age, are not going to be presented with the opportunity to have sex, oral sex, regular sex, hell, anal sex, that they're not gonna be presented with environments or opportunities or situations where they could put themselves in compromising spots with older people that are closer to adulthood. Like, as soon as your child reaches that high school space, right? They 9th grade. So they 14, 15 around people that are as old as 18. There are some people that, depending on when their birthday fall, they're a grown adult attending the same school that your 14 or 15-year-old. You can't tell me that 17, 18-year-old is wrong for having hormones or wanting to have sex or wanting a girlfriend or a boyfriend. That's normal for their age category. It's your job to prepare your child to be able to navigate that. What kind of parent would you be? But now, if you never got this as a safe conversation, if you don't have that space where you've undid this whole police officer and judge role to your child, you ain't gonna get them to open up. Like Sierra said, they're not going to open up no matter how much you demand.
When I asked my mom this before, she told me, she said, "Oh well, nobody she said nobody told me, so I shouldn't have to tell you." I'm like, "But look at the mistakes you made." And she said, "It doesn't matter. If nobody told her, she shouldn't have to tell me." I said, "Okay."
Right.
And take that, and now I tell my little sister so that she don't go through the same thing. It's clearly her mindset is, if nobody told me, you should just figure it out.
Yeah, and that's a part of generational curses. That's a part of us carrying over the fact that your mom feel like that. That's nuts. But that's a generational curse, because I'm pretty sure her mom didn't give her any real talk.
And then, love, too, what you said about them being around these, older kids. My daughter came back and told me, her first week of school, it's the older kids, they prey on them freshmen, too, because it was a gay, they were gay. And the girls kept trying to like basically told like all her friends was like, hey, I'm trying to put you on. She like you. And so my daughter kept saying, me and my friend kept saying, we don't like girls. Like, we don't like girls. And they just kept coming, bothering them. So, like, you got to make them aware because it's older kids that's at the school that's, like, looking at them as prey, too. Because they're new and fresh.
Of course. Of course.
That's so true.
But teaching... Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was gonna piggyback off what Renee said. That's so true. I remember I started high school 9th grade. I was 14, and my very first day of high school, the senior, he told me he wanted to eat my pussy. I wasn't having sex. I didn't like it. Like it made me feel so uncomfortable. I did not want to go back to school.
Now I want you to pause in that. I want you to pause in that thought. Right? You were how old?
I was 14.
Okay. You were 14, the senior was 17 or 18. The first thing society does is says, oh, that young man is nasty, or he ain't right, or why is he messing? She too young and all of this. But now think about what y'all just said as the younger person, right? Y'all mamas ain't talking to y'all about sex. Do you think that there's some father in his life sitting him down and saying, hey, son, now girls under this age is off limits for you. I'm going to tell you why. Let me explain to you what the law say. Let me tell you how. No. On the top end, boys and the older children ain't getting it neither. So at his age, it's not absurd for him to say or think things like that. It's absurd how far down in age he's going with that from an outside perspective. But a lot of these kids on neither end is getting spoken to from a space of educating them. Do y'all understand where I'm going with this?
Yes.
Yes. And it's not, I want you to understand, Cause the way we tell it is like, here is what I went through. Ain't no go through. The same way, like you probably haven't talked to your child for them to even be prepared for something like that to happen. Is the same way that the boy who said it to them, right, wasn't talked to or prepared to go into an environment with younger girls and not say that to a younger girl because it's inappropriate. Ain't no, you went through shit. This is a bunch of things happening, and it makes sense why it's happening. It's lack of a safe space at home. Parents not being honest with their children.
And they praise boys for that. They praise boys for that. They say it's cute when boys... Oh, go ahead.
Boys ain't doing... This is the thing. Boys not... what I'm trying to get y'all to understand. Boys are not doing anything wrong. This is what's wrong in our community. We hear this stuff and immediately you want to talk about it. And everybody want to now tell that, yep, my cousin went through that. Girl, I went through that. You ain't going through shit. This is normal. Teenagers are going to fuck, want to suck, want to lick, explore their bodies, their hormones changing. They getting their periods. Their dicks getting hard. They having wet dreams. They waking up with hards on. Things that we're not, this ain't nobody going through nothing.
Yeah,
but when you weren't educated, you will believe that this is some sort of sexual trauma or all this. What it is ignorance is going on. All of the things that's physically happening to them, the stuff they send out of their mouth is regular. What's missing is lack of education in the home. Not at school, in the home and with the family on what is socially appropriate when you start to develop an understanding for your sexuality. In the home on what is and when is the appropriate time and place to say and do these things. That's what's missing. They ain't doing nothing fucking wrong.
A lot of times when we be in relationships, especially if the kids don't belong to the man, or if you have like an uncle or somebody staying with you, some type of man that respect the kids or whatnot, they see things before you see it and they try to bring it to it, and that shit turn into an argument.
Yes.
Therefore, they'll step back, and then the shit that was gonna happen, it'll happen even faster because now once the baby pregnant, they get sexualized, they get touched or anything like that. You ready to go cuss somebody out, cut them, shoot them.
Frank, they can't be honest. Can't be honest. I see it all the time. There's a step parent because you know the stereotype is, watch your kids, the stepdaddy or molest them or watch you. Sometimes the stepdaddy telling your motherfucking ass that the way that you parenting is causing those children to act out and be a certain way, and they can see things coming because they view the situation with you and your children differently than what you view. And they trying to tell your ass, your daughter gonna end up getting pregnant. The way you're not putting your foot down with certain stuff, or the way you're not talking to her about this, or you don't see how she moving with this. Your son fucking, some little girl finna come say you a grandma. Now I'm telling you now, and we don't want to hear it.
Yeah, it's a bad look.
Ask this before we get too far off. Renee said earlier about her child watching YouTube and how the video could start off as a children's story and then turn into something inappropriate. If your children have had permission to do that, and then you learn, hey, this was going on YouTube, let me stop that. What does the conversation look like to say, I know I allowed this in the past, but we're not doing it now? Like it
looks direct.
Whole, but I'm saying you had a live before where you was like, if you fucking somebody wrong and then you try to say, okay, well, let's use a condom. You can't turn around like that. You should have started out with it.
Yes, absolutely. So it needs to be where a lot of y'all will create a terrible relationship with your child if you try to take the device cold turkey. So you need to start with some restrictions or limitations. A lot of things that you find online, it comes from the more time you spend, eventually you start seeing certain shit that is getting weird, right? Stay on the internet long enough, certain stuff is coming up. So a start would be limiting the time frame in which they're allowed to spend on there, and then also making them intentional, meaning you could have them even make a list of the things that, okay, here is your 2 hours or your hour of being on the internet, and tell me what sites or what pages you want to go on. And I only want to see you on those. So this is allowing me to let you set rules for yourself. Because I ain't saying you can only go on these pages. Tell me what pages you want to go on, right? So I can make sure on my end as a parent, I stay on top of what these pages are posting, right? Or tell me what TikTok accounts you follow, and here's your time frame to be on it. And after that, you're going to get off of it. But I'm also going to have a conversation about why. But now let me tell you this. This is where the adult accountability comes in. And when we was reading Insight 24, and it says no good habit will stick if you're not taking care of yourself, right? If as a parent, you always ripping and running. If as a parent, you always on the internet for hours and hours. It could be spread out in increments of 20 or 30 minutes, but you a good part of your day is on there. If you as a parent is not organized and stable with your time and taking care of yourself, or you always stressed out or into some crazy ass relationship or going through it with somebody, guess what? You're not going to stick to that good habit of limiting your child on that. It will eventually go back to what it was. And if you're in front of them not being responsible with your device, meaning for me to tell my children limit their time on there, but they see me on my phone nonstop looking on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, this shit is not going to uphold. Go ahead. Somebody was going to say something.
I wanted to speak on what y'all was talking about a minute ago about the kids, being a step parent and the kids doing what they doing, and the other parent don't understand what you seeing in a child. Like, I'm a witness to that. I've seen my stepdaughter, she was touching on my biological daughter, and I've told it to her mama and said it over and over. And one day I walked in the room and they was humping.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And she like, oh, well, I ain't gonna tell you nothing about telling the kids nothing no more. I ain't gonna, because it was always, oh, you always picking on my
kids. She didn't want you to be right. Mike, she didn't want, listen, go ahead.
I'm always seeing, I'm a corrector every time I see something. I'm on my kids hard. Like, I don't play that, none of that disrespect, nothing, extra or whatever like that. So I'm on them hard. I'm watching y'all, making sure y'all doing what y'all supposed to be doing. So when I see something going on that I don't approve of, hold on, y'all need to correct that. You know what I'm saying? And so when I seen it, she, I ain't gonna tell you nothing no more. I see where you was going at with it. I trust you now. This. And I'm like, man, this something that, what I'm saying, we got to get better with that, because if I'm gonna be in your life, this got to get better. Like,
yeah, but I'm gonna tell you something, Mike. A lot of women run good men off with that type of behavior. Yeah. They run good men off with that type of behavior, meaning a man has to genuinely be in a space where he really care, or is in a season in his life where he's willing to go through that with you, because a good majority of men that know they good men, they finna leave. Bitch, if I'm trying to tell you good, corrective, constructive shit for the household to be ran better, for these kids to be in a healthy environment, for us to be on them in ways where they understand structure, and you don't want to listen, right? I'm out of here. The other part of it is, a good majority of women coming from single mother households or lack of their father or seeing their father be able to make decisions or have a say so like you're trying to do, they don't respect that in their boyfriends, their husbands, the person they in a relationship with. So it comes across as controlling or a certain kind of way when Mike, the stepdaddy, is saying certain stuff about how I let the kids behave. And so now I'm triggered. I'm offended. I don't want to tell him certain stuff because I don't want to be made to look wrong, because I don't like how it feels when I get correction from a man, because I ain't have my daddy in my life when I was growing up. Or the way my household was set up, my mama mostly made the rules or set the standards and things like that. So it's uncomfortable. And you will run off a good man every time. Grown men understand, even from a spiritual space, you cannot protect and provide for what you cannot control. And when I say control, I don't mean from a manipulative, like negative controlling space. But if you're with a woman that you don't have any influence over her or the children, bro, you can't protect them. You can't provide and you can't lead them.
That's one of them things that make you feel like you when a man dating a woman like that got kids like that, and they see that in them kids, we care so much. So when we tell a woman, they don't believe us. It's like we gotta figure out how to show her because we need some evidence to prove this, and we go over and beyond to do that shit. We get tired of that shit. That's the shit that pisses a nigga off.
Can I just add very quickly?
Go ahead, Omo.
I want to give it from this perspective. I'm not a mom, but growing up with parents who didn't talk to me about these things or introduce boys to me in a particular way, it was more like Miss Marilyn said, from a predatory angle, like look out for this or look out for that.
Yes.
There was no healthy speaking about it. It will. If you don't talk about it now, it will show up when they're older, because then we won't pick good husbands. There's no way we're going to know how to pick a good wife or a good husband. Actually having the experience of being in a relationship, or having a boyfriend, or being able to talk about that boyfriend, even if parent didn't have a good experience, by talking about it and creating that environment that gives me the opportunity to make that you're going to tell children, don't go out until, like, my parents are Nigerian, so it's a little bit of a cultural thing, but they were like, you can't go out, study, do your books, this, that. And when I hit 19, then I was like, well, where's the boy? Where's the husband? Go out there and find them. How am I supposed to interact with them if you told me not to go near them? Or you told me not to talk to them? Or when I did like them, I couldn't talk to you about how I felt about liking them because it was weird to you. So now, when I'm a grown woman and I feel certain things, or like if I didn't have a boyfriend who knew early on in life, when I was like, 18, 19, 21, where he corrected me and I learned how that was. I talked to my mom, or I talked to the people. When I grow up to be now 26, 27, 35, for example, and I meet that man who corrects me, I'll be able to take it better, even if I didn't have my dad, because I had the experience in the environment where I could talk about these things and learn about these things.
100%. Now, if you look at it on the flip side, I love what you said, Omo, because if you even look at it on the flip side, right? When you go into households and you see young boys that it is now, okay, a stepfather in the home, and he's telling you, hey, man, take the garbage out now. These are things that you as a young man, when your mama tell you to do this, to do that. Now it's a fight over the territory. And Ma, you got this man here, almost like that whole storyline in Baby Boy. It turns into a space where there's so much trauma and dramatizing and in feelings where we can't rear these children together. We're so off with our viewpoints on, how the children should be raised or what they should be told. And the kids are even seeing this. And so you got men that are more comfortable with a woman guiding and leading and telling them. And this is why I stress so much about what single mother households do to our culture. So many women get triggered instantly when I start talking like this. But in reality, it creates a terrible fucking product, and it does damage to our community, where you have young men that will listen to women over listening to other men, and a woman can't tell you how to be a man. So now you see in relationships, men and women arguing like two chicks. Two females. That's how you got boys that were raised for years by nothing but a woman. And so when they become a man, they have the emotional capacity, the emotional maturity of a female. Because humans, from a child into adulthood, we emulate, we model, we imitate what we see. And so if for all of my 17, 18 years, I interacted with boys out in the streets, but at home, I seen nothing but a woman make life decisions, right? I see a woman solving real life problems. I'm going to go about life like a woman until I go to college and get in a fraternity or play some sports and tie in with a coach or a mentor or somebody outside of that to consistently show up in my life and show me other behaviors. I'm going to mostly behave mentally, I ain't talking about the physical, mentally like a woman. And so what happens is now when we get in the dating pool and we get ready to date, we got men that they go about conflict, resolve, and arguments like a female. And some of y'all have experienced it. You in a relationship with a man and you're supposed to be the emotional, unstable, female, feminine creature that your hormones have you off and you go off at times and you come in with an attitude. Something this supposed to be female behavior, bitch behavior, womanly behavior. You fast forward, you look at the dating pool, niggas acting like this. You come in the house, your man got an attitude, you asking, babe, what's wrong? He nothing. Nothing. He acting like a straight female. Woman, you say something, you get argumentative or catty from a female perspective because it's certain stuff that we do just being women, chicks, right? This nigga start clucking back like a chick. And this is why you see so much more domestic violence and men unable to manage themselves when a woman is mouthing off. So now y'all in there fighting like two chicks because in all reality, he identifies with what you identify as, a bitch. He just don't know it. And I ain't talking about no gay or no trans. I'm talking about a man with the mental or emotional capacity of a woman. And then you got women that this is so the norm to them that if you a man like how Mike described, or like what Frank be talking about where, okay, I'm finna be quiet when you go acting crazy and getting disrespectful because as a man, I know I ain't even supposed to be fighting with you. You get upset or act like I don't care about you because I won't fight with you. Because I won't engage in the bullshit. Because you so programmed that a man is supposed to behave the way you seen a lot of these bitch ass niggas behave. Right, Linwood, you took the words dead out my mouth. Go ahead, Frank.
That shit is dangerous. For real. I understand that shit on another level. That's why I don't even engage in that shit. I say some slick shit like, hey, keep on, I'm gonna go beat your dad up. I gotta find a way to deal with it. Cause I don't feel like leaving right now. Sometimes niggas get tired of leaving.
Right.
Niggas just like, come on, just chill out. You know? But bitch, you ain't shit out. All of you don't know what the fuck is. Yeah, that shit right there get old.
100%.
And as a female, Dorsey, it became, when I was dating a dude like that, I said, oh, hell no, he act like a female.
Yep.
And because I did have a dad in my home, it started to make me nervous that he would do something to me. Like,
he will. Chrissy, he will. I gave you the statistics on, even for women, especially black women that's pregnant, the number one reason, right? The high percentage reason of deaths in pregnant black women is being killed by their baby daddy or a lover while they're pregnant. That's the number one killer in pregnant black women. It ain't some medical like condition or complications with the pregnancy. It's niggas offing your ass. They will do something to you. It is imperative, it is important that fathers and men get back involved with the upbringing of fucking boys and young male children. And for me, so when I hear women disagree with what I'm saying, it's like y'all got to be nuts to think that our culture is supposed to continue on with women raising men. This is not natural. And this is why you're seeing so much bullshit. This is why it's so easy for the governmental programs that broke down black families to continue this on because we're continuing it on. We're defending independent shit where a woman is stuck with children. We're mind fucking ourselves to believe that a child support payment is consequence enough for a man if he don't want to take care of the kids. And we believe that we're doing a good job by raising these children by ourselves. And the boys are growing up with the emotional and mental capacity of a fucking woman. And the females are growing up hard and masculine and tough and unnurturing and not being able to be feminine because they have to fucking coexist in relationships with, like Chrissy said, a nigga that'll slap the shit out of you like he a woman.
Okay. Like the random coming in because you mad, slamming doors and shit. That shit used to make my anxiety high. I'm like, you good? I just had a bad fucking day. Right, coming in the house slamming the door like I did. It just gave me anxiety. I said, "Oh, I can't do this."
But even me and Frank have had conversations about, as a young boy growing up, there being a lack of influence from your father. So him having to figure it out on his own on how to manage himself. Because there are times where you want to slap the shit out of a bitch. But if you don't have that other side to where it's like, okay, no, this is, as a man, this ain't what I'm supposed to be doing. This ain't what, and depending on your influence, you got some environments that will encourage you to do so. Even just arguing. I know y'all know some people that in a relationship, they don't physically fight, but bitch, they be going back and forth, just arguing like two females. And some of y'all dudes, you have dated women that they believe that you're supposed to sit up and just go back and forth with them. All the time, just back and forth. Go ahead, Shantae.
I'm gonna speak for myself. I used to be in a space where I was doing all that rah-rah arguing back and forth when I was younger. And the dudes that I was dating when I was younger, they was on that same frequency. They were arguing back and forth. They was It got physical and everything. Like it was very, 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 very toxic. But fast forward to today, my dude now, if I get upset, he'd be like, "Shantae, calm down."
Because the energy and the spirit of a man, the presence of a grown man that's in his, what I could say, for lack of a better phrase right now, his masculinity or his leadership or his understanding that I am not what these feminine creatures are. I am not that. Like, even regardless of what your sexual preference is, to understand in the presence of a woman, I'm still a man. Linwood and I have had conversations about this. Your preference on who you have sex with can be whatever it is. It still don't change what you are. And so if you take even Linwood and another female, the idea is I don't want to stand up here if I'm Linwood and argue with this woman like I'm a woman. Like, I got my preference, but I'm not no bitch. Like, I'm not finna sit up and cackle back and forth with you as if I'm a woman as well, and we're equal. Because the idea is, gay or straight, the minute you put your hands on that woman, your ass going to jail, Linwood, like you Frank or anybody else.
Yep, exactly.
I could attest to that though. Like,
you're right.
This guy that I've been dealing with for like the last 9-10 months, like, he's so in his masculine and emotionally mature. One day I was like really, really upset. So he called me and he talking to me, and I was kind of, giving off a little attitude or whatever. But he was so calm about it. And just, he was like, "I'm gonna ask you again." He was like, "How you doing?" And he was just so calm. I didn't do nothing but talk to him calmly.
Right.
Even though I was upset, and I got out everything that I got out, but I got it out calmly. And he was just so understanding, and it made me feel good, because I was like, damn, I was ready to be, cussing and fussing, and I ain't even have to do all that.
Yep. But that's that dynamic. Go ahead.
Yeah. I respect that so much.
It's that dynamic. Now, just to bring what I'm saying full circle, how many of y'all as women have experienced dating a man that behaved in these ways that I'm talking about, and when you got to the root of it, his mom was one of his biggest supporters?
Child.
Straight up.
His mama was his mother was.
Daddy was nowhere around.
Yep.
I know about this to be true.
It's crazy that you said that, because I swear, like, when you go through that, you do end up dealing with everything that he feels about his mom. He'll treat you that way.
But also, don't stop there. She's his biggest supporter because half of that bullshit he got from who? And this is why when you hear me talk about, this is why when you hear me talk about the subject of single mothering, whenever it's presented, people immediately think about themselves as a single mother. What they don't think about is the many of men they've dealt with that was raised by a single mother that developed the ways of a woman from being mostly influenced by their mother. And then they end up in a space where when you go to try to sort through and be in a relationship with a man like that, you end up having the mama in on y'all relationship. And a lot of times she's not willing to be honest about the wicked ways of her son. I've seen many of mothers, right, that they baby mama, and they don't care to even admit that what their son doing to you is wrong, even though they could say, I wouldn't want a man to do that to me. But they still won't validate that your feelings and what you're going through with your babies, that you had her son, she's never going to admit that her son is wrong. And they deem this some sort of loyalty.
And because I realized that in my relationship, I was like, oh yeah, this nigga got mommy issues because I see where he get it from, and ain't no daddy be here, so yeah, that's where it is.
But we're defending as a culture in large groups single parenting. So it's like when somebody bring up you and your kids, like, no, single mother households ain't that bad. But when somebody bring up that nigga that you had them kids with, and we talk about what kind of product he is coming from a single mother household, now you got a bunch of opinions about this single mother shit. And yeah, I seen his mama condoning his bullshit, and his mama knew that he was fucking with another girl while I was pregnant, and his mama knew because the girl was coming over her house, and his mama know that I was going through certain stuff and he wasn't there, and they knew my baby was sick, and they ain't even bring no medicine or no clothes. And we got all this stuff to say when it come down to how a nigga that's a product of a single mother household is doing us. But as a culture, we need to nip this shit in the bud altogether. This shit is not healthy. For the babies, for us as women trying to date these men, for men trying to date us as women that have had no experience with a masculine figure or a man telling us what to do or helping in our upbringing or influencing us.
I'm glad my kid's mother, she was not like that. She absolutely was not like that. If she felt like he was doing some fuck shit towards me, she spoke up on that shit. And she would talk to me about, because we was younger when we had them kids, and it wasn't all fucked up. It wasn't always bad in the relationship. But she seen him doing some shit that she didn't like, that she wouldn't put up with. She was on his head about that shit. And she always told me, that's my son, but I'm a woman first.
Okay. And so now listen.
I absolutely love her.
So now listen. Sounds noble, right? But who raised them?
Robert, just for the same.
Her and her husband.
Okay.
His father had passed away when he was young.
Okay,
so
they raised him.
Didn't grow up in it.
Right, but they raised him. Listen to what I want you to understand what I'm saying. When I speak on this stuff, I'm not saying that every single two-parent household develops a perfect product. The statistics show that the majority, the higher percentage of fucked up individuals in prisons and throughout life come from single parent households. So I will say this about parenting overall. Regardless, you are responsible for the type of product that you create. Our culture loves to believe that, you can do everything right and raise them right and they will still go out in the world and do some crazy shit. Not true. There is a small percentage of people that is their story. The majority, that's not y'all fucking story. That child got fucked up ways from fucked up shit he's seen that y'all not willing to admit was fucked up. Think about what I said damn near an hour ago in this Zoom. There is stuff as adults to our children we're not willing to admit was not appropriate or not okay for them to see. There are certain things that our children are experiencing that a lot of times as adults, we don't care about their experience. We don't sit down with our 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old kid and say, hey, do you like living here? Do you like how mommy treats you? We ain't asking these fucking questions. So when they get grown and we see them making undisciplined decisions repeatedly and not following the things that we say we reared them on, you got to ask yourself, was I really doing what the fuck I thought I was doing? How many of y'all come from a household, watch this, watch how real it get in this moment. How many of y'all come from a household that if I ask y'all mama right now, she gonna say everything was all good, but you gonna say that shit was fucked up?
Love. Can I say something?
How many, but just take a second before you ask me that. There's a lot of y'all that if I talk to y'all mama, y'all grandma, whoever raised y'all, they gonna say they did the best they could. Your ass should be grateful they did one. And you gonna say, man, she was a narcissist. Man, I love her, but man, she used to do us wrong. Or man, she didn't teach me this. Or man, she wanted a safe space for me to talk about her. Man, I had to get out as soon as she found out I was having sex. Or I had to, so miss me with all that shit by all old, he had his mama and his dad. If a motherfucker out here living and really in their habitual behavior, doing fucked up shit to their own kids, their own family that they chose to create, there is trauma there. Give a damn because they mama telling you, girl, he wrong. You did some shit as a mother, or y'all had some shit going on. People don't just end up fucked up. And if you didn't do it, you allowed the environment to expose them to that. Some parents know, I didn't show my child this, but the neighborhood we lived in, because I was broke and poor when I had them, they seen all kind of bullshit. Some of them, no, I had my kids in the church. They grew up. We went to church every Sunday. I made sure they went to school. I got them through high school. But the area that you lived in, the shit going on at the fucking inner city po-ass school you had them at, showed them all kind of fuck shit. So guess what? They on fuck shit.
Yeah. Facts. Yeah. Total denial. I don't even, I used to have trauma with men moms. Even if she said my son is this, my son is that, I used to be like, how the fuck he get like that? You telling me all, that's why I never believed her and I continued to date her. I married her son because to me, you telling me that your son is a bad person, I couldn't trust her because how the hell did he get that way? And why are you just so openly telling me this? You don't know me.
But Chrissy, so, as you become,
she created the product.
As you become grown, and we talk about this all the time, as you become grown, you realize like there is perspectives of the same situation that differ vastly. You talk to children and talk to parents, their experience is very different. So fuck y'all when you walk around saying, he got a good mama, and people hide shit very well. Kids go through stuff that even some of y'all, your parents won't even apologize to you right now if you ask them to for something that you went through under their care that hurt you. You know how many adults are in therapy because from their perspective, my parents fucked me up? And if you ask the parents, I ain't did nothing to that damn boy. We fed him and we clothed him and his motherfucking ass is just ungrateful. Y'all some ungrateful motherfuckers. Right. You alive, ain't I? Fed you, didn't I? Every motherfucking pair of shoes, and I got you through school, and you around here like, but motherfucker, I got molested, I got fucking touched on by the babysitter. My brother had us in here, we was running the train on people at fucking 15, like it was all kind of shit going on. And you gon' overlook all my trauma and just maintain, I did the best I could. Yeah. The fuck?
And it's so bad that even their kids, like in my comments, their kids are saying it now. Our parents did the best they could. They tried. I'm like, that's getting so played out. I wish y'all stopped saying that shit.
Very much.
We get it. But y'all so conditioned that they conditioned y'all that I know for a fact my parents had information that they chose not to give me.
Yep.
They chose not to give it to me because she felt like it wasn't her duty. I took you.
I'm going to tell you, Chrissy, I'm going to tell you on what you're bringing up. In our community, I'll give you one specifically on finances. A lot of y'all had people in y'all family that had good credit and knew about what it takes to maintain credit and financial literacy. They didn't want to tell y'all because they scared you're going to ask them for something.
Didn't say shit.
And so they purposely didn't tell you because they didn't want to have to be a resource.
Thanks.
My mom had her own business, and I remember being at her shop, but she never like broke things down and taught me, this, that, and the third, the ins and outs, and I, just didn't know. I knew she was a hustler and a go-getter. She, we didn't want for shit, and she had money, but as far as learning the ins and outs of business, I never knew nothing about it.
Yeah, my mama was the same way too, love, and she still do it till this day. Like my sister is 26 years old. My sister stay with her, and so she always like to say, "Malika don't like to pay bills," but she said the same thing about us. And I tell her like, "Mama, you ain't taught us how to do that. Like, I pay my bills because I don't want to come there with you." Like,
yeah, I did a live earlier when I was doing my Zoom on credit, and I was live on Facebook for a little bit, and I was talking about trade lines and putting your children on your accounts or finding somebody, paying somebody to put your child on their account if they got a long-standing good credit history as an authorized user. Immediately in the comments on Facebook is people, no, don't put your kids on nothing because I co-signed for my daughter on a car loan, and when I looked up, she had done made all the payments late, and it messed my credit up. Now, a trade line ain't got nothing to do with a car loan. No. But what this particular lady felt the need to type. And then from there, you just seen a bunch of other people just coming on there. Yeah, girl, because I put this in such and such name and they fuck this. Don't listen to her. They on the live now while I'm live teaching in the Zoom about credit. Why not to look out for your kids and put them as an authorized user? The whole time the shit they talking about ain't got shit to do with an authorized user. Just ignorance, fear, ignorance, and a selfishness. This is why when you look at our community, people compare us to other cultures and they talk about how we're not united. They talk about how we're unwilling to build wealth together, and there is a out for self mentality even when it comes to the parents to the children. And this is why a lot of black people, they adopt this whole I did the best I could, because that's their way of negating or not having to accept responsibility for their role in you turning out not a good product.
I said earlier, Dorsey, I literally said this. Somebody asked me, why was it important that I help my kids get resources? I said, because when I became an adult in the world, like when my parents, like the check went out as a foster child, and I made that phone call to the system, and they said to me, once they adopted you, they told us they were going to do that, send you to college, make sure you're good. Right. I said, so what the fuck am I supposed to do? She said, unfortunately, once they adopted you, you lost all the resources. Yeah. And that, I said, so I'm just a little ass kid out here. Yep. I ain't even been parented. I literally felt like I was not parented. That's how I felt in that moment. But if we were, now watch this. If we were to talk to the people that raised Chrissy, I'm pretty sure they're going to defend themselves and say that they did a good job. And also watch this. They not going to give a fuck that her experience was different than theirs. You become a real parent, mother or father, when you can accept that my perspective is not the only one, and it's not the only one that actually matters. It's not the only one that I'm supposed to consider. Even at 10, 11, 12 years old, your child and what they're experiencing with you as their parent, it matters. We condition and we program these children to just take on our view, our emotions, our energy towards how we are as a parent. When they get older and they're able to develop more of their own mind, half the time they disagree with a lot of shit we did, just like we with our parents. And we're so busy being the police officer and the judge over them until they get to 18, we never develop a real relationship with them. That's the real reason why a lot of y'all got the fuck on when you got old enough. And you don't care to go back and spend long periods of time with your mom or your dad, or let them move in with you or you move in with them. You don't care to have that. When you hear people talking about having a family estate and all the family living on the same property and different houses within that, some of y'all like, hell no, I'll never do that with my family. And it's because of the experience. Why do you think there's books like Adult Daughters of Narcissistic Mothers or Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents? Mm-hmm. Somebody read Insight 25. We're on 69.
To stay healthy, we have to eat well and keep moving.
Now, I'm going to tell y'all this. With this particular insight, a lot of y'all don't realize that your attitude, your mood, your mental space, meaning for this particular moment, right? How you feel, the energy that's over you is directly tied to your gut health. A lot of y'all don't realize you eat so much sauces and oils and bullshit food, processed food, things that aren't real, snacks, candy, that you don't even have the ability to control your mood, your attitude, your mental space. Some of y'all have moments where you want to be in a good mood. Like, girl, I'm trying to just vibe in this moment, but I just can't. You're not in control of you. There is so much to understand and learn and educate yourself on about our food supply that if you're not making it a priority to look at the labels on what you consume, you're going to be a problem to yourself. And some of y'all children are like this. The attitudes they get with y'all, the snappiness, the fatigue, the feeling some type of way, the easily irritated, it come from all them fucking hot chips and candy and processed sugar and microwave dinners and fucking shit in a can, in a box that you always feeding them, the drive-thrus you keep running them through. because you're unprepared for life. So y'all always rushing. You're looking for something quick. There's never any real food. You're not spending most of your time when you grocery shopping in the produce area or the fresh meats and things that have to do with like nurturing your health of your gut, your lymphatic system, moving around and being alive, right? You're not doing this. And so you don't realize you nor your offspring have much control over yourselves. A lot of us, we didn't learn to look at the ingredient label until we got grown. I'm talking about good and grown. Like 27, 28, 30, 35, 40. You just not looking at the labels that tell what's in the shit that you putting in your body.
Mm-hmm. I was training a mom today on potty training, Dorsey, and she was like, well, my daughter, she has a hard time pooping and something wrong with her stomach. The first thing I asked her was run her diet. By the time she ran that diet down, I said, girl, that's why. She constipated, she ain't pooping but once a week, her stomach is hurt. I said, you feeding that baby so many carbs, macaroni, cheese every day. She don't eat no meat. I said, does she eat vegetables?
No,
So
it's just a bunch of starch, which turns into sugar. And then the kids crash. When you take, like, I see people make a meal, it'll be some fried chicken, mashed potatoes, and macaroni and cheese. Too much starch, right? And so the kids eat this, they have a sugar spike, and then they crash. And so their moods are going to match this. So when you start saying, y'all get up and clean up, or y'all do this, they easily irritated. You take that as disrespect because they moving slow or whining, crying about what you're trying to make them do, and then it turns into a problem. So you can have all this drama going on every week in your house with this type of shit. You done deem the kids aggravating, or they don't like to listen, or they hard-headed, but you are not feeding your family from a space of health. You're not. Anything in a box or a can that's not like a grain or some nuts, something that can exist outside of refrigeration or survive outside of being frozen once you break it off of whatever plant it grows on, you are putting yourself in a space where you end up consuming bioengineered ingredients like somebody put in there, fucking preservatives, things they put in it for it to be able to last. I've said this so many times. You take a fucking fresh cut green beans, or you take a peach or an apple, and you put it on the counter next to a can of green beans or a can of peaches, or apples in the can. Them apples in the can, them peaches, them green beans in the can can sit there for months, and you can still crack that can open and eat it. That fresh food, an actual apple, banana, fucking peach, some green beans, some lettuce, it got maybe 4-5 days. Maybe a week to sit there, and that shit gonna start decaying and breaking down because it was living at one point and now it's dying. That shit in them cans and boxes is not alive. It's not giving you shit. And then you feeding it to your babies, you killing them. And then you tell yourself, I did the best I could. And when they 25, learning that they got diabetes or high blood pressure or gout or some sort of lupus or fucking shit wrong with them, they believe, oh, this is hereditary. This is my grandma had this, my mama had this. That's because all of y'all have been eating the same bullshit food. So of course you're gonna get what they got. You consuming what they consume, fuck their bodies up.
I got called, what they call it? I think I had my birthday party, I did a sushi bar. And some of the people that was invited eat it, but there was this one particular guy, he was like, what black person just goes to a damn sushi bar? I said, where else we gonna go? He like, somewhere with ribs. And I said, oh, I don't eat that shit.
I hate that shit.
But it's because their program think that only black people eat a particular food. And I was like, just try it. So he ended up trying it. He was like, oh, it feels refreshing. He said it's kind of different. I said, yeah. And your stomach ain't gonna be hurting and feeling bloated once you leave here.
Yep. When you
I get made fun of every day at work. Every day. It don't even bother me, but they stand on the fact, that they eat pork and they've been eating it all their life, and I don't even get upset with people. I just sit there
Ariel, I'm gonna tell you something. A lot of, and Linwood, I think me and you talked about this, a lot of the health problems that some of y'all faced when you got into adulthood, it came from all the bullshit your mama and daddy fed you when you were a child. And this is why we have to start talking about it being more responsible to wait and have children once you've established some sort of financial stability, because eating healthy costs more. We have to start talking about how it's smarter to wait until you're in a 2-parent household with 2 adults that have really deemed that they can get along and bill pay and be stable together before having children, so that the kids can have a chance at eating some real food. Some of y'all, you had to eat whatever your family could come up with because we was poor. We was broke. This is what we could afford. My mama worked so much, she didn't have time to educate herself on certain stuff. This is why it's not smart to keep having babies and trying to raise them by yourself or alone, or keep having more after you know you already not financially stable with the ones you have. Somebody read Insight 26.
Thinking too much might paralyze you, so just start moving.
Yes. Inaction breeds doubt and fear. Action breeds confidence and courage. And you have to get to a space where you realize our culture comes from a fear-based history. A history where they use fear to control us as slaves. They use fear to keep us from stepping out and doing certain things. It was all, master gonna get you. And here we is, X amount of hundreds years later, and it's still, no, I wouldn't do that. But they ain't giving that money away at that bank for free. Or what's the catch to that? I don't know about that. You going in there eating sushi? Or why you cooking your chicken like that? Or you don't eat meat no more? It turns into very much a cycle. Thank you, babe. It turns into very much a cycle of just fear. It's just scary, 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 scary. Nah, the shit that's really killing us and hurting our culture, we ain't scared to do that. The stuff that you should be scared of, meaning doing these things, even though you're familiar with them, it's a sure way to keep your children oppressed and stressed like you were. You ain't scared to do that shit. You ain't scared to repeat the same financially fucked up behavior. You ain't scared to eat. Let's talk about fear. You ain't scared to eat the same foods that your grandma ate, and you know your grandma died of cancer or high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes. You ain't scared. And if you notice, we ain't. We ain't scared to get them hog mogs and put that hot sauce on it and eat that shit up. Right. We ain't scared to put the white rice next to the macaroni and cheese, next to the fucking cornbread, next to the motherfucking yams, next to the over-seasoned collard greens, the over-seasoned green beans cooked. We ain't scared to do that. But you can see what this same food did to your daddy. You ain't scared of that, though. Like, we really gotta rewire ourselves. It says, the lesson to be learned here is that sometimes simplicity and taking action without excessive analysis can be the key to success. Don't let fear of the unknown or analysis paralysis hold you back from finding your own version of cheese in life. The idea is, even for people like me, I don't want to be around nobody that every time it's time to move on some shit, your ass is scared to do this, or you want to sit here and analyze the risk we take. Anything in life worth having, it requires you to fucking take some sort of risk. All the shit you comfortable with gonna get you everything you already seen. So if you want something different, you gotta get uncomfortable. You gotta do some shit where there's a chance you might fail, and you gotta be willing to get your ass up and do it again. Somebody, go ahead, Chrissy.
Like entrepreneurship, like you not scared, you might not make money one day or it's not consistent. I say you ain't scared your boss gonna fire you tomorrow. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing I say to them. Like, it's the same. Y'all think it's different because you clocking in, but that job can let you go tomorrow. And then if you ain't got an emergency savings or you ain't prepared, then what you gonna do? Yep. The same fear you think I don't have it, because to me it's the same shit with the job.
Yes. 27. Somebody read 27.
Nothing lasts forever, so keep your eyes open for approaching changes.
This is something that it is so difficult for a lot of people to grasp. Change is normal. It's regular. It should be expected. Now, when I say this, it's easy when you think about the day's going to change. The month's going to change. The year's going to change. Now, people are allowed to change their mind. People are allowed to change how they feel. People are allowed to change their perspective. Some situations require you to change yours. Some stuff that you felt like was a wrongdoing or an injustice to you, if you just change your perspective, you will realize it was not. So when you understand this, when you're in relationships, when you're raising children, these individuals will change. And if you guys don't adapt and change certain things intentionally, right? If as a parent, you don't adapt and change certain things, you will be behind with the times and you could end up creating a terrible relationship with your child. 28, somebody read it.
Our fears hold us back, but confronting them is easier than we think.
Read it again, Miss Marilyn.
Our fears hold us back, but confronting them is easier than we think.
So I've said this before and I'm going to say it again. If you don't get a grip on the beliefs that have you afraid to get uncomfortable in certain areas, try new things, accept and look for change, like the 27 said, you end up in a space where the ceiling on what you can achieve will be low. We set the ceiling for ourselves. And so when you don't understand this, there is a good chance by the time you have more time behind you than in front of you and you really facing your demise, you will have a lot of regret. The worst feeling, and studies show this, the worst feeling for people that even that are of old age and they're about to die, or they're on their deathbed from some sort of health issue, is looking back at their life and regretting that they didn't do and move on certain shit. And so they're faced with that reality because most people believe this is it, right? And so when they faced with that, you know, when I look back, this is it, and I wasn't satisfied with this. This was my one life, my one shot, and when I look back, I don't feel good about it. You can lie to yourself and say what you want out loud to social media and all of that when you in it. But when it's those moments, anybody ever been in the hospital feeling like, okay, I'm being told there's a good chance I'm gonna die? Anybody ever had a brush with death?
Yep, I have.
And you sit there, Linwood, and you think about it. You start thinking about all the things that you didn't do that you should have did. The stuff you should have said, the things you should have moved on, the advice you should have listened to.
All decisions that I've made and did not made.
Yep. It says, don't let fear hold you back from progress. Once you find the courage to move on, the grip of fear will weaken. I'm going to tell y'all this as well. The more you educate yourself in a certain area, like really put yourself around people that are knowledgeable and doing the things that you want to do, the easier it will be for you to crush your own fears and just move forward. It says, by changing nothing, nothing changes. Action. Overcome your fear. A ship is safe in harbor, but that's not what ships are built for. Insight 29. Somebody read it.
Fixed mindsets hold us back and can make life mediocre.
It says, fixed mindsets hold us back and can make life mediocre. Some of y'all don't even realize in certain areas of your life, you have a fixed mindset. And that is the very reason why you cannot grow or excel in that area. It's a lot of y'all, you don't realize you got so many beliefs programmed into you from the people that raised you or from the environment or the neighborhood, the shit you watch online, that you are unwilling to grow and you don't even know it. It's not because you woke up and said, I am not going to grow in the financial literacy area, or I'm not going to grow in the relationship or communication area, or I'm not going to grow in my spirituality or my religion. I'm not going to grow in the diet and exercise. But because you are so programmed with certain beliefs in these areas, you don't move on change. You don't care to change. You don't look for change. You don't plan on change. You don't write out change. Your goals are not reflective of no real change. Go ahead.
I noticed this. So, like, my grandmother, growing up, I always heard her say, like, oh, the women in our family don't drive. They're afraid of driving, right?
Yep.
So my mom can drive, but she never got her license because she don't like driving. My grandmothers don't. My aunt don't, right? Cool.
They program that belief into her. Go ahead.
But let me tell you, love. And now everything's making sense. So maybe around 2018, right? I was in a relationship with a woman. And I met her in September. And on our first date, she was like, you can't drive. You driving back.
And love, I swear. I said, I don't know how to drive. The women in my family don't drive.
Right.
And she asked me, like, did you drive before? But now that you're saying, I'm thinking about it, like, I didn't even give it a chance.
Yes.
Told myself that we don't. And guess what, love? That was September. In December, I had my license.
Yeah,
I'm walking around saying that I can't drive because we don't drive. I'm like, that wasn't me who thought that. They told me that.
Limited beliefs, but it's self-limiting beliefs, right? It's one thing that somebody else believes you can't do something. It's another thing when a generational curse, like what she described, has you believing that you can't do something. And there's a lot of us like that. We won't move certain places based on stuff we heard growing up. We won't try certain foods and things because lack of seeing it or certain beliefs from growing up. We won't talk to certain people or deal in certain areas based on stuff we heard or things that was programmed into us when we were being raised. And when you're unwilling to accept change as a good thing, as it being normal, you will just follow that shit.
That was me with credit. My mom used to be like, don't get no credit. It's bad for you.
Come on.
It's bad, but you ain't never tell me that you just didn't have no discipline. You just didn't know how to stop maxing out your cards. So she used to cut my cards up. So I grew up never wanting to get a car note.
Yeah.
Never wanted to get credit.
Not understanding the big key to wealth and success is credit. Go ahead, Chrissy.
No, it's just a fear, and I'm glad that I overcame it because it's like all these years I wasted with that belief in me, but I never knew it was a belief until I start educating myself. Like, why I spend money the moment I get it? I didn't believe I was deserving of it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just those beliefs you have to attack before you could actually start moving on things.
I come from a family where a lot of my family members are scared to get on planes and fly, all kind of stuff. Imagine if I conform to that. You won't even see the world. You won't get out. You won't go places, all because of these beliefs. And there, if you go back far enough, there was some sort of family member that had a reason for starting up this particular mental or psychological rule that it is no longer relevant to you or in your generation. Somebody read 30.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Omar.
What if the belief is like something you told yourself? So, for example, with credit or like with financial things, I've always believed that it's boring. So it becomes complicated when I'm learning about it because it really sounds like I'm learning German with like these different, RS, PG. I see these things that people stocks and bonds. It becomes boring. Is there a way to like make it more interesting or?
So goals and having a plan of action, a purpose is what changes your perspective, right? So starting out, human nature, because the way that we're set up, and I want y'all to really understand it, we're just gonna have a science lesson real quick about our species. The way that humans are set up, similar to lions and a lot of other mammals, is that survival kicks in, right? And so we look for the things to be fearful of so that we can protect ourselves and survive, right? So the idea of being an intellectual or a person that is above the average mind, that is just out here surviving, looking for the stuff that might hurt me and staying away from that, right? When you become an intellectual or you decide, I want more for my life than just the average human, right? You start to set goals. And so what happens is when you set goals, you start to look at not what is hard or boring or, difficult to the mind. You look at what's necessary to accomplish what you say you want. And so as you write your goals out, the idea is I start to become interested in learning what these abbreviations are for the stocks and things like that based on trying to make a certain amount of money that's tied back to a certain goal that changes or develops a better lifestyle for myself. You're not going to wake up and just shift a belief to being interested in math and financial literacy and things like that. But when you start to look at the shit I want, and it can start down to a shoe, a designer bag, you can look at something and say, you know what? I want to be able to afford to buy myself some Birkins, right? And okay, how much do these cost? So now outside of paying my bills, being able to buy bags like that or have a lifestyle like that, I need to bring in this much money. Okay, you know what? My job only pays this, so I need to create multiple streams of income. But now outside of getting paid and I pay my bills in my current job, I don't make enough to really start putting up money to start a whole business on the side. So what else can people utilize in order to start big? Oh, you know what? Credit. So now let me start educating myself on credit and things like that. Now when I'm talking about credit, they're talking about taking the credit funding and investing it into things that earn money. So creating a stock portfolio with an investment banker or buying real estate. And all of this started from me just wanting some fucking Birkin bags. But this shit done turned into me really educating myself, because in order to have a lifestyle where I could wake up and go buy a $20,000, $30,000 purse if I wanted to, requires me to lay the foundational work. And if you're a man, this needs to be programmed into you young. At 17, 18, it can be a car. I talk to young boys all the time. What you want, man? I want a Hellcat. I want a Hellcat, all black, matte wrap. I want my shit to have these kind of rims. I want to be able to do such and such. Okay, now look up the car and how much the tires cost. Because I know you want to do them burnouts and all that. Okay, so Miss Love, the car costs this, and then tires to replace them, it ain't but this. Okay, so now what bills? And you just run them through it and break it down. After a while, they got a whole little plan that they motivated to have, all because they wanted that particular car. And it all ties back to, let me get me a planner. Let me write out me some goals. Let me start getting an understanding of what is necessary to have the type of life I want. A lot of us weren't taught this young. And so by the time we understood this type of shit, we got 2 kids, 3, 4 failed relationships, stretch marks, fucking things about our body we insecure about, certain shit we of age to where we feel like, damn, I'm supposed to have more accomplished. So now I'm not only able to do this stuff, but I'm also having to work against my own mind, right? Because my mind fucking with me. Girl, you fat, you got 2 kids, your body ain't like this. Look at them girls online. Look at this going on with this. Look at this with this. And it's the same for young men. You look up, I got 2 different baby mamas. Both of them saying I'm deadbeats. I'm doing the best I can. I don't know, like I want more money. Like it's niggas walking around, they my age or some younger got more money. You got these your intrusive negative thoughts talking to you. Now you got to set your environment up to open up that or give life to that second heartbeat, to where the positive shit and the resources, the stuff, that voice of I think I can, I know I can, I think I can, I know I can, is heavier and louder and outpowers the voice that's telling you what's wrong with you.
Love, what I did to my kids when they were younger, I stole it off the Cosby Show. I repurposed it. And I had my kids tell me how they wanted to live and what kind of car they was going to drive. And I made them research.
Yep.
Now, how much it costs for the rent, where you want to live. See how much it costs. You know, and this was back in the early 2000s. You know, where the prices was like $700 for a 2-bedroom. You know, and stuff like that. So I made them choose their careers based upon how they wanted to live.
Yep.
Because you can't
That's exactly what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, and then you say you want this condo, this scat pack, what you got now, and he won't got all this stuff. Who gonna pay for it? Not me, because you're not gonna be under me no more. So you got to make sure you bring that kind of money in, that you have that kind of stuff where you can provide it for yourself. And right now, my kids are successful because of that. They know how much it costs to live.
And Adrian, I'm gonna tell you, because what you're saying is so powerful. A lot of us were never asked what we wanted for our life. We were told what we should do. We were given like recommendations or suggestions, but somebody's sitting down giving us an overall view of, okay, this is what you say you want. These are the people you've looked at in life, on TV, wherever, and you value, or you take, some sort of attraction to these things. Here is now the resources and the stuff you need to accomplish that. We weren't given that. And this is why a lot of us have a feeling of almost resentment towards our upbringing and how we was raised. Because when you really think about it, a lot of us were delivered into adulthood already behind.
Can I say something?
Yes.
You know what? I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah, and I'm telling this to y'all because I'm validating anybody that has these kind of feelings. That's why with Insight 30, where it says we can change our identities by setting goals. This is exactly what I just explained. Off of Omo's question, we can change our identities by setting goals. You can reroute and change the direction, the trajectory of your life, your character, your personality, just by writing out and setting out to do certain shit.
I like where it says, go ahead. I'm sorry, Miss Marilyn. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Some of you saw on my Instagram all the projects that I make, the cakes, the